Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Jeff Erickson here. Today is Thursday, April 30th. Even though it's the eve of the NFL draft, we're still talking baseball here. And to help me today is Michael Simione from spstreamer.com. You can follow him on Twitter at spstreamer. Michael, what's going on? How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Doing good work in this space. We want to promote it. That's the great thing is like with TGFBI and with all the other, the podcast contests that Chris does at Baseball Pods, start to get to know like what other good work is being done out there and get to meet more people. First Pitch Arizona is another great example. And I love it. It just shows how vast this industry is.
Yeah, it's massive. And like you said, both of those are really good at bringing people to the front of the community. And it's a good way, like, with the podcast bracket, it's like there's so many podcasts out there and it's a good way to, shed some light to podcasts that you wouldn't even know existed until, that tournament. So, yeah, I mean, those things are awesome.
So how did you get involved? How did you start doing this?
Yeah. So I actually didn't know sports on Twitter were like a thing. And until one of my best friends, he runs like a fantasy hockey account. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And at the time I was in a league for a couple of years that really like emphasized on streaming pitchers. Like you basically have to do it to win. Right. So, I was trying to get myself better at it. So I was like, let me just kind of go on this journey, and put it all out there on Twitter and start an account. And that was it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we got a ton of injury news, a lot of breaking news period today. Let's just jump right into it here. Starting off, Bryce Harper got plunked in the face yesterday. Tough back-to-back hit by pitches by Genesis Cabrera. First Harper, then Didi Gregorius. Gregorius and Harper sat today. Ironically, even though Harper's looks scarier, Gregorius might be the one that's hurt a little bit more from what I can tell.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone was worried about Harper. That one, thankfully, that hit the cover in front of his face first before hitting him in the face, and then he posted that video on Instagram saying he was fine, which was good. So, and it was funny when I was watching that, my wife was next to me, and then I had to tell her the story about what happened to Stanton. And I was like, thank God that didn't happen to him. And thank God he had that guard up.
Right. And I always think of Jason Hayward too, about, a guy whose career take a sudden change. He was never the same after that. And it's not necessarily that was the one thing that you could blame it on, but man, it's true. He was not the same after getting beaten. Wild reaction too. Girardi went nuts after the second one, which I can't blame him actually. That was rough, but seeing after Gregorius got plunked, Harper actually consoled Cabrera today. But then today, also in the ninth inning, Arenado got hit in the upper back, and they kind of said it was intentional, which is weird because it was a 3-3 game. It's like in the ninth inning, you usually don't use that as the time to have retribution. There you go.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Wow.
Yeah. So, and he goes, in previous years, people would go nuts. This is Schilt talking about it. He goes, we took care of our business and we moved on. So he's like kind of praising the Phillies for not letting it get out of control. But I mean, you say something like that, you got to be suspended. We'll see. I don't know. We'll find out. But that was wild stuff. Let's keep moving on. Hyun-Jin Ryu. They were saying, okay, maybe one start with this glute muscle. Now he's on the IL. Still might only be one start. Maybe he'll just come back on the 11th day. But yeah, some people might have had him active this week, thinking they still might get that start if it gets pushed back a day. He was pitching so well on Sunday. I thought he'd struggle going to the American League. He hasn't.
Yeah, he's been really good. I mean, he's always been good when he's on the mound. He's got that 4-pitch arsenal, always induces a lot of weak contact. But there's always, for me, I'm always worried about that injury past. Before 2019, he always missed a ton of games, a big portion of the season. So anytime something like this happens to him, it kind of brings back nightmares from the previous seasons. So hopefully this isn't something that lingers and is a quick little IL stint, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Crossing fingers there. It's of all the injuries to have, I got to think that one's probably less concerning than others, but you never know with the kinetic chain. You try to adjust one thing, all of a sudden you're dealing with a hammy or a groin or something like that. You try to land a little differently to kind of counteract the pain. I think it's smart to kind of take their time. It's a long season, not like last year.
Yeah, definitely. And they're going to need him, especially if they want to make a playoff run.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that Blue Jays rotation right now is scary. I mean, it's just, I mean, who do you trust?
Which we knew coming into the season.
True. Yeah, we haven't had a single pitch out of Nate Pearson yet. I was a little wary of him to begin with too, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because the command has always been somewhat of an issue with him.
Still remember the Fall Stars game where we saw him, where it is him versus Forrest Whitley, and Pearson hits 101 on the radar, and we're like, no way that's real. Monty Harrison, we're all sitting in the front row, like Spore, a bunch of other people at First Pitch Arizona, as you can just sit wherever you want if you get there early enough. And Monty Harrison on deck circle turns around and goes, "Oh, it's real, it's legit." And
that's awesome.
Out. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it was cool. But then Forrest Whitley comes out. He was seeing those radar readings, and he started overamping. He was trying to throw hard, try to match that. He's like, I can throw just that hard too. I swear that was like a sign that, okay, bad things are coming with Whitley, because this is before he had any rough patches too. Yeah, this is where I become a fake scout for just 12 seconds.
We all think that, think that way, and sometimes think we're smarter than we really are.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. So illnesses are a big problem right now in the baseball world, and it's more nebulous than last year in some ways. A guy goes on the IL, they don't declare what it's for. He could actually have tested positive, like Jose Altuve, or it could be like the other 4 Astros on the team where they were away for contact tracing, missed the series in Coors. They missed one series and then got to Coors Field. But so we've got Luis Robert came back today. Jordan Alvarez, we're not quite sure. He's had multiple instances of this, and now Corbin Burns, where they just said we're following testing and health protocols without really saying anything because they can kind of hide behind that.
Yeah, I was seeing with Alvarez that it's vaccine side effects.
I'm hoping that's true.
Which, yeah, if it is true, I mean, coming from when I got my second shot, I was out of it for 2 days. Really? I got hit with it bad. Yeah.
Which one did you get?
It's definitely not fun to go through. I got Pfizer.
Okay, I've got Moderna, and I'm having my second one on Friday. So
okay.
not.
Well,
and everyone's warning me.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes a difference. I mean, it actually doesn't. I mean, I did get COVID, so did my wife, but she felt no side effects on the shots, and both shots knocked me out.
Really? That's so funny. My wife's had both of hers, and she had like a little headache, and she was fine. I had my first one. My arm was sore for 36 hours. I had a headache that first night, but I golfed during the day, so I probably was a little dehydrated. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking by it. But
there you go.
Yeah. Corbin Burns, again, this is one we don't know if that's going to happen. And, I see that, with him, obviously, and we're afraid of anything. He finally had his first bad start where he kind of just got BABIP'd more than anything else. I didn't really feel like it was that bad. Did you have any takeaways from that last start?
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was that bad either. Those things are just going to happen. No one's going to be as dominant as he was for an entire season.
Right.
So I mean, it would. I hope he's back soon so we can see him rebound and continue. Hopefully being a dominant ace, because he's so much fun to watch and he just looks so good. I mean, pinpoint accuracy, throws hard, the cutter's amazing, ton of fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw. I took my L on him. I wrote an article in January saying he's getting drafted too soon, so that was pretty cool. But my concerns were threefold. It was one, the competition he faced last year, all Central Division teams, AL and NL. 2, length, how long he'd be able to go into games, how many innings he'd throw this year. Verdict's still a little out on that one, but I mean, he's going 6 innings almost every single time at least. And then 3 was the walk rate, 10% walk rate. I guess he solved that last one there.
Yeah, I was the same as you. I was more so worried about the innings. I didn't really doubt the skill set. And we still don't know. I mean, I would assume if they're, let's say they're pretty much a shoo-in to make the playoffs, they're definitely going to start resting him. I can't see them pushing him. It's, it'll be interesting to see. Because I remember when they were in the playoff hunt, I think it was 2 years ago, Council was pulling them really early. Like towards the end of the season, like going 4 innings, we're going right to our bullpen. So and he did that for a month almost. So, that's something you have to kind of worry about, especially towards the end of the season where you're trying to make a move.
Yeah, true. But you know what? If he's this dominant and his control's this good, well, then
it won't matter.
That aspect of that, well, it won't be this good. But he's obviously fixed control issues.
Yeah.
I think that at least that has been addressed. I think competition level has probably been addressed. Those 2 points alone have made it more than worth his draft price. And especially if the January price, even like the late March price, where he's starting to go in the early third round. He went like pick 33 in one of my two main events. And I think I saw him go, his min pick was 32. So, that I think he's worth it, even if he only throws 160 innings, 150 innings, something like that.
Yeah, and I feel like you might get more starts out of him if he's that good too, because he could just be really productive. And, let's say they pull him after 6 innings, but he's only like 70 pitches in, then that's going to help in the long run,
Yeah, true. And if he leaves with the lead, all the better, especially because they have a good bullpen too. So for the most part, you're not going to get hurt too bad. Now, the offense behind him is the issue. With Yelich still out, still dealing with the back stuff that apparently he's been dealing with for a while, but it's worse this time. I just saw a thing on the pregame notes from some of the Milwaukee beat writers right before we were about to start to record, talking that, okay, this isn't his first go around, but it's just a little bit worse. So yeah, and then of course, they're missing, they're missing Kane. Hira has just disappeared completely.
Horrible.
Yeah. Do you have any Hira in your life?
I don't. I think maybe one share somewhere. Right. But I remember when I took it, I instantly regretted him taking it.
Yeah, right.
Because the floor is just so low, and we're seeing it. So
I think he could get sent down once everybody's healthy. I mean, they got Wong back now. So that could be a part of that there. So we'll find out. It's, and by the way, Daily Phil was talking about how he traded Burns for Rosarena this year. So I'm not the only one. Yeah. Although the verdict's not out on a Rosarena yet. Give it time. There's a lot of bad hitters right now.
He's doing okay.
Yeah, he's all right. There's still some promise there. Another news item. San Diego Padres. This is a dual item. Ryan Weathers left early yesterday's start. Issues a joint issue in his arm, but not the elbow itself, but a joint, I guess, in his hand. Only went 3 innings, and worse for him, but good for the Padres. Dinelson Lumet could be back on Sunday. I'm a little hesitant about that one there. I also was hesitant all along on Lumet. I don't have him in any of my 17 leagues.
I don't understand what they're doing with him. I mean, just let him get the surgery already or do something with that elbow, because the PRP injections were horrible enough. And now he goes out, gets forearm tightness. Now they're going to try and put him out again. It just doesn't make sense to me. And those injections rarely work. The only pitcher I can really think of is like Tanaka.
That's the guy I was going to suggest. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I'm questioning their medical staff a lot right now.
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, they were right about Tatis. We
That's
all
true. That's true.
I was a wailing Cassandra with him, and I still am worried about a re-injury at some point. But he's ready. He's running. He's doing everything. The two-handed follow-through seems to work just fine for him. So I remember John Smoltz making a big deal about that on MLB Network. But it seems like that's
someone pointed out, I didn't get to really look into it. I think it was last season or 2 seasons ago, though. Whenever he came up, I think he had a two-handed swing then anyway.
Yeah,
and then he eventually went to the one hand, and so I feel like it's not really. It probably doesn't feel weird for him to do.
Right. And and the one-handed was so violent. I mean, the thing that's worrisome is like the 2 times he hurt it this year were on a swing and a miss and reaching for a ball into the hole. Those are things that are still going to happen. None of these were like, okay, he landed on a shoulder or anything like that. And it's the non-contact aspect that worries me. But I guess that happens. If you it's like when if you miss a step when you're stepping, it almost feels worse than if you just trip up otherwise there. Or same thing like swing and a miss. Not that I've ever swung and missed in my life, but the lack of resistance actually hurts sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What was your thought on Ryan Weathers before he made this start? Were you recommending him as a stream this week? Were you in on the bidding on picking him up in your leagues?
So I do have him in a league. I didn't recommend him as a stream just because I didn't know how far they were going to let him go. really good four seam with a great slider, and the changeup has good, a big velocity difference between that and the fastball. So I think he's good. It's a shame that the velocity clearly dropped and the spin rate, and they pulled him instantly. I guess we have to see what happens. I know you were just mentioning they said it was in the hand, because I thought I saw a dead arm.
You might be right about that. I just saw a joint, and I should pull that up again.
I feel like they don't really know what happened, because I'm pretty sure when he got pulled too, he said that he felt okay.
Yeah, and so maybe it's not that bad. But with Lumet coming back, that means though his spot in the rotation is not guaranteed, and that's the problem. The other problem why I lowered my bid. Originally I was like, hey, full season of a pretty good prospect. In that spot, in that rotation on that team, yeah, okay, I'm on board. And then you're like, oh, Lumet's making good progress. He could come back pretty quickly. Okay, well, it's not as secure. Now, Lumet could go out one more time and then finally get the surgery, and then it'll be Weathers all over again. The funny thing is it's not Mackenzie Gore,
which is crazy.
Yeah. What have you heard on Gore? Any reason?
I felt like I heard the same thing with him too, that he was having yips or a dead arm issue or something, right? Yeah. You had to have known something was going on, because it made no sense they didn't call him up last year. It just made no sense to me. So I felt like something's happening there, and maybe something still is, and they just don't really want to tell anyone, which is weird. Really good prospects, he can be a fantastic pitcher, but who the heck knows what's happening?
I think actual minor league stats will help with this one. Seeing him, minor league games, period. Us being able to see him at El Paso, I think that will help a lot. I looked a little bit more on Weathers. It was a dead arm. Instead of 92 to 93, it dropped down to 87, 88. So,
oh man,
yeah. So that's a big red flag. And if that was the case, then smart of them to take him out.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
One other news item before we move on to some more streaming pictures. Matt Olson hurt himself in batting practice before the game today. Had a ricochet, went off of his, suffered an eye injury. And X-ray revealed no broken bones. I saw a note after the game saying his eye was swollen shut. Guess it's hard to play with one eye, unless you're Trevor Bauer. And I don't know, but I thought this could be pretty bad. I don't know. I mean, it looks like the fact that he needed an X-ray right away. That's a little concerning.
Yeah, we got to just wait for further news. It's unfortunate because Olsen was starting to really heat up. He's hitting really well too before the injury. So, it's just I don't know if there's any kind of injury history with that. I'd have to try and find something. But yeah, I feel like as long as he doesn't have a fracture or anything, he should be okay. But after I would think a week or so, right?
Yeah, he was so bad last year, and it was either boom or bust. That was the thing. He hit the homers still, but he just didn't hit for any average.
Which is funny. Meanwhile, 2 years ago, he comes back from broken hand, and he's hitting bombs and
right. You had that, and so last year he was one of the helium guys, and I made a point of trying to get him at least in one league when he fell down in the one of my two mains last year, and that did not. Narrator, that did not end well, but that's okay. I wish I had a little bit more of them. Maybe I'll still trade for him. I'm in a couple of trade leagues, so we'll pull that off at some point once he gets past this. Before we move on, talking streaming pitchers, a quick note from a couple of our sponsors. All right, thanks for that. We are back. I'm with Michael Simeone of SP Streamer, spstreamer.com. You can follow him at spstreamer. Michael, who else? What's your operation like? How many guys you got on board?
Right now, I think we have 8 writers.
Okay.
I think. And we basically, we do a little bit of everything, but we mainly focus on streaming, obviously. But we've added on, someone does an article where you're streaming for saves, or if you're trying to get steals and you want to add someone for steals for a week. Same as just overall hitting. So we're trying to hit kind of all aspects of streaming. That's our main focus, because there's so many websites and so much content out there, and it's kind of like me trying to corner a little niche market, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. You have to do that, and just keep creating content, get noticed. and hopefully you blow up. And there's so many people doing good work too. That's the really tricky part there. I was lucky. We started in '97, and it was a much more wide open space then. You see like Mike Curlin get his niche with doing lineups, and that's doing great stuff. It's my go-to example of what you can do to try to find a way to try to get some traction.
Exactly. And there's so many good people out there who haven't even started writing. I mean,
right.
I have several people who write for me now that I'm the first spot they've been writing at, and their stuff is so good. And I just think all these writers are so much better than me.
Yeah.
I don't know how their names aren't out there yet, but it's just because they haven't started, and hopefully they'll get there,
Yeah.
There's so much talent
too. Yeah.
Yep. So much talent.
So one of the things, and obviously you're recommending streaming, and it's worked for you in the past. I found the last 2 years, 2019, 2020, were really difficult. It's such a heavy hitting environment. There's a lot more Joe Rosses out there, a lot more Austin Gombers, those type of outings. Whereas this year, I've been a little bit more successful in streaming. I've been able to find cheaper pitchers in DraftKings with my second pitcher, for instance, or in league. I've got some leagues where I have daily moves, and I think it'll tighten up, but at the same time, is it just my impression, or have you found that to be the same, that it's a little bit easier this year?
It's funny. I'm the opposite of you.
Really? Okay.
Last year, I had the most success I've ever had. I don't know why. And then this year, well, you know what? I guess I just really, overall, I've had a lot more better, like good streams compared to bad streams, but my overall number has been a little rough because I've fallen into the Brad Keller blow up, and there was another blow up too. So those kind of hurt my numbers. I'm definitely having a much better second half of the month than the first half. But I thought it was really tough. April is so hard when it comes to streaming. Every year, you mentioned Mike Curlin. It's funny. I was talking to him the other day, and he's like, "You always suck when you start the season," like as a joke, but it's true. Everyone does. I mean, Nick Pollock does streamers too, and I see him talk about all the time. April is so hard because you don't know anything. You think you know everything, but you don't. You don't know what offenses are going to be good. You can't catch trends. There's really no underlying stats you can really look at to start. So it's kind of all up in the air. And we all know baseball is extremely unpredictable.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I feel like April's a little tough. I mean, it's getting better towards the end now. But moving forward, we should have more, data to really work off of to kind of limit running into those blowups.
Okay. So the reasons why I thought it might have been a little easier is I think there's more bad teams in baseball. There's bad offenses in baseball. Then again, you can still run into the one time the Cubs hit David Peterson, for instance. You're like, there goes that. I thought I had it, but especially I still long for the days of Freddie Peralta in the 7,000s on DraftKings. It's like, it's such a beautiful thing. No, not anymore. He's getting priced up. The one thing I worry about is in standard leagues, not just daily, but more so in just your basic rotisserie leagues is, we're going to get this attrition in leagues where you have injury lists, where you can stash guys that get hurt. The pool of players that you can choose from gets, we're starting to pick the picks get a little thinner. You're chancier. Some of the top guys have already been called up. There'll be a stretch where we get guys that distinguish themselves in the minors. That helps, but it's also going to get picked over pretty quick too. I'm afraid of that.
Yeah. It's obviously the more, the bigger rosters are become a lot more tougher. That's why I actually decided this year, because I usually did 30% owned pitchers and under. But now I do kind of all options because I have I guess a lot of my audience is kind of in every type of league. So
sure.
I do a shallow, I call it my main pick, which is 30 and under, because that's what I've always done. And then now I do deep leagues, which is 15% and under. And weirdly enough, so far I've been most successful with 15% and under streaming pitchers.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Maybe you just really have to grind and pay even more attention to those guys.
Yeah, that or it's just they're kind of pretty much always my second choice. So I guess my second choice is better than my first choice.
That's so funny. Now, what standard are you using? You said 15% is ESPN, Yahoo, or CBS?
Yeah. So most of my audience base is really I want to say casual fan, but probably a little more advanced than that. It's not NFBC players. So yeah, I do ESPN and Yahoo combined. I combine.
Okay.
And then just get that average, and that's what I go off of.
Well, then you're hitting the vast majority of fantasy players. I mean,
exactly.
I adore the NFBC, and it's my favorite format. I have to, every once in a while catch myself and realize that not everybody is playing that. And, especially that sort of depth for that matter, too. And you have to tailor your advice to everybody.
Yep. Exactly.
I remember way back in the, first couple, 10 years ago in First Pitch Arizona, someone was dissing a Yahoo league or something like that. That's what most people are playing, and, the 10-team mixed league is common. And it's just it's a lot more like football in terms of the penetration, but which is okay too, though. I mean, and you want to bring more people in and then start to get them a little bit deeper.
Yeah, exactly, and and let them learn off you too. For sure. So I do everything. I mean, I was surprised a lot last year because a lot of people were like, can you go to 50% owned? Or, I mean, a lot of people want me to do all pitchers, but
sure,
that would take a lot of time, so I can't do it yet. But.
So let me ask you this: what's the first thing you look for when you're you look at a slate of pitchers for a given day, and are you looking at the opponent? Are you looking at a certain skill set? Are you looking at a stat? What's the first thing you're looking at when you look at that slate?
Yeah, so I've been keeping track of all streamers for the past couple of years, and just kind of running different things to see what's stats to see what's most successful. I found that opponent matters more than the actual pitcher. Obviously the pitcher matters, if they're very bad, it doesn't matter who they're facing, they could get, lit up. So I like to look at the offenses, and I also found that if you look at the last 7 days, it helps you catch trends easier. So I'll look at the last 7 days of a team and what they're doing, WRC plus wise, OPS, swing strike percentage, that kind of stuff. And then I also like to look at the lefty righty splits, of course, for the season, or the last 30 days or whatever it is. I kind of look at all of it just to see how good they hit lefties or righties. Like I keep telling everyone this season, Detroit cannot hit a lefty at all right now, and they're striking out a ton against lefties. So if there's a decent lefty streamer out there, go after them because they're probably going to pitch well. Or what I'm seeing lately, which kind of hurts me because I'm a Mets fan, but everyone's saying pick up a streamer that's facing DeGrom because the Mets are not going to put up any runs, which is 100% true. I might consider it moving forward. But
Garrett Richards. Oh my God, how did that happen?
That's what happens when DeGrom pitches. They put up at most 3 runs at most. Yeah. Usually it's 1 or 0.
And usually it has to be him that's putting it up too. But
seriously.
Yeah. It's fun watching the Reds home versus road splits. I'm a Reds guy, and you can see anytime they go out to the West Coast, usually they're suffering offensively. I mean, it happened. And the first road trip, San Francisco and Arizona both shut them down. And Arizona's, they don't really. I was pre-Gallon too. It wasn't like they had a shutdown guy, but I like that you brought up the 7-day thing too, because things change pretty quickly. Sometimes you're like, I can definitely pick on this team, and then maybe not as much.
All of a sudden they catch fire. Yep.
Yeah. So WRC plus, is that the first stat you look at when you're looking at opposing lineups?
I look at everything.
Okay.
I mean, I just you'll see. I have a chart on my website. It's a tab called Streamer Central. I think you think I would know this. And I also post links in my daily articles to it. And I mean, it just lists. It's kind of like what I do, but on a smaller scale. So I will just lay out the stats, and I'll literally just highlight good and bad. And and then I'll just go across and see who has a ton of green, which means a really good matchup. Who has a ton of red
today has a ton of green.
Which I said if I put out there, I said if Cease doesn't perform, I hated taking that pick. I felt it makes so much sense, but it doesn't always work out because it's baseball. But I said I was like, if Cease can't have a good game today, just drop him.
Yeah, we're all rooting for those 5 innings.
So shaky still, and I mean. The Tigers cannot be worse right now, so he should be able to pitch decent at least.
Yeah, that's true. Carlos Rodon, He was dealing again today. The Sox just went up 3-1 in that one. They're in the top of the 7th and first half of this doubleheader. I think he struck out like 11 of the first 15 guys he faced, something like that. Just nuts. Did you see this coming? I didn't.
No, I didn't at all. Well, I mean, we also didn't know the velocity was going to go up. I mean, right. I think there was word of it in spring training a little bit. I don't remember if I saw it. Clearly not, because I have no shares.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what a good story too, though. I mean, he refused to go to other teams because a lot of teams wanted him in their bullpen, and he refused to do it. He just said, I want to be a starter. I have this stuff, and look at him now. I mean, velocity can make a big difference. And adding, I think it was like 2 miles an hour he's added, more rise to that fastball can do wonders.
Absolutely. And yeah, any team in baseball could have signed him for a month and a half, except they all tried to sign him in the bullpen there, I guess. But pretty amazing. But you would think so many teams are thirsting for starters. And meanwhile, the White Sox have 6.
Yeah.
I'm counting Kopech among that, but
it's a big advantage for these teams who have a lot of depth this year, because I feel like a lot of teams don't.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think offensive numbers are down right now. There's no getting around that. It's home run rates about the 2018 levels, although it's kind of commensurate with a couple of recent Aprils. But runs are down to 4.28 per game per team. Strikeouts are over 9 per team per game, which is. That's the thing that just really jumped out. And
league batting average is like 220 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right. It's 232 going into today, but it's brutal. It's so absolutely brutal. It's going to be the worst month ever, according to Joe Sheehan. He was crunching the numbers the other day for collective league-wide batting average. I mean, that's crazy. That's the thing. I guess our standards for what a good stream is also has to change.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I just consider anything, I like to go by they at least contribute to like 2 categories, right, between whip, Ks, and ERA.
That's a good point.
Plus, I mean, innings. I always make it where they need to go at least 5 innings. If they don't go 5 innings, I count it as a bad stream.
Yeah. Eligible for the win. That's all you can.
Yeah, they got to give you a chance to get the win. Exactly.
Right on. Let's talk about some of the before we do it, before we talk about today's games and some other particular pitchers in general. A couple of notes from our sponsors. First. Do you play fantasy football? Do you love the NFL draft? Well, you're in luck, because Champions Round has created a fantasy game specifically for the NFL draft called Big Board Showdown. Playing is simple. Pick 12 prospects, stay on budget, and watch your team rack up points based on where they're selected. Download the Champions Round app right now. Hurry. The draft is going to start in about an hour from now. Make your picks today. #YouGotNextPick. And our other sponsor is from Underdog. Football season approaches, and you've got to check out these new best ball leagues on Underdog. Best ball is the ultimate test of your live draft skills, since there's no in-season management. That's right. Draft your team, and Underdog automatically credits you with the best performing players every week. You don't need to play the waiver wire or worry about trades. It's just the draft. Who doesn't love drafting? In Underdog Best Ball, you can draft as many times as you want, because you don't have to do any roster management, saving you loads of time. Underdog's best ball leagues are drafting right now, starting at just $3. Once the season starts, Underdog also has daily fantasy and an all-new pick'em game. Go download the Underdog app now to get in on some best ball before the season starts. Enter promo code ROTOWIRE with your first deposit, and Underdog will honor a money-back guarantee during your first month. Love Underdog, or get your money back with promo code ROTOWIRE. Search Underdog in your app store and enter promo code ROTOWIRE. I'm Jeff Erickson, here with Michael Simeone of spstreamer.com, and you can follow him at spstreamer. Michael, let's take a look at some of the pitchers today. Some good performances. I was really excited to see Shane McClanahan. I don't think he disappointed. He was fun to watch.
Yeah, did you see that fastball?
Yeah, I saw you tweeted out there. But I just thought, like, whoa, that's breaking away from righties at 101.
101 miles an hour moving away from righties. That's insane. He looked great. I mean, the slider had 10 whiffs on it and had a 58 CSW. So it all looked good. I just think it needs to be stretched out more, because towards the end, the velocity kind of started to come down a little bit. So yeah, I think it's just going to take a little time to get him to 5, but he looked phenomenal. He looked good. How great that Rays farm system. They just pump out anyone they bring up is just productive. It's crazy.
It is. It really is. And, the funny thing too is like the way they manage it, like, okay, he's getting stretched out, but he doesn't need to get stretched out too much because, hey, we got Luis Patino. We're going to put in right behind him there as the primary reliever. Hey, big power lefty followed by a power righty. Great. Good luck there.
Crazy. Yeah, seriously. Good combination.
I know. And, tomorrow Josh Fleming goes. He's one of my streaming success stories so far this year. He complete opposite pitcher. Slow, soft tosser, but doesn't get that many Ks, but he gets the job done too. Finds a way to work out. He worked last year. He got a win and a pretty good outing in the second outing. Can't complain about that.
Yeah, no, always been a really good command pitcher. And that's what he does. He just paints the corners, gets the weak contact, kind of like you said, won't really get a lot of strikeouts, but gets the job done. Yeah, I mean, against easier teams, he's a no-brainer. Yeah,
he is. He really is. Okay, other great start today was Yusei Kikuchi taking a no-hitter into the seventh inning. Probably some people had him benched, thinking, okay, on the road against Houston, those Crawford boxes, all those strong right-handers in their lineup. And here he tosses a gem after struggling in some tougher matchups earlier.
Yeah, I almost benched him, but I didn't, thank God. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he allowed a hit until like the sixth inning or fifth inning. He was pitching really well. The cutter was working great. The slider too. What I really like about him is that the increase in velocity is still there this year. Yeah. And I was kind of hoping for better command. At times he has it, at times he doesn't. I mean, that's his major flaw, because if he gets a hold of the command, I really think he could take a big leap forward. But from what I've watched, he kind of loses it at times, and that's when he gets in some trouble. And I think that's what's going to make him a little inconsistent, like he has been this season.
Right.
But we'll see. Maybe he gets better with it as the season goes on, the weather gets a little warmer. But yeah, I mean, I think he has a lot of upside.
I agree. I mean, I really like it. He had a lot of swing and miss last year. Hadn't had as much this year, but I think I'm glad you mentioned weather, because I think that was an issue. Pitched at Minnesota, pitched at Boston, especially the Boston start. And actually, he had a home start against Houston, which was going well until the seventh inning. And I think he just got extended a little too much there. Ron Chandler used to call that the blown quality start, where you get through 6 innings with the quality start, just they're left in a little too long. And that's kind of what happened to him a little bit. And I had him benched in one of my 3 leagues where I have him, and Labor, unfortunately, I had him benched. So I'll miss out on some really nice numbers there.
Yeah.
I'm still happy because I have him. That's the way I approach it. That's how I rationalize it.
I was going to say, you can't really blame yourself. It made sense to bench him because the Astros are like one of the best offenses in the league. So
yeah. Although if I knew that Jordan Alvarez was going to be out of there, and Kyle Tucker was getting a day off too, and all of a sudden that becomes a little bit of a thinner lineup there, and that's kind of what happened. But so it goes. But I am impressed. The Mariners are interesting. They've got a lot of young talent. They got Logan Gilbert at some point coming up later on this year. I'm looking for that. Everybody knows about Kelnick.
Or soon, because Margot Gonzalez just got put on the IL. So
yeah, one thing that I don't like about Seattle pitchers is that 6-man rotation. I mean, I think it's good for them. Perhaps it's tough for us. How often can you get a 2-start week?
Yeah. The only good thing about them, which kind of helps counter it a little bit, is they do like to leave their starters in. Like they let them go deeper into games.
That's true.
Like last season, it was a short season, so it was kind of hard to tell how much it really affect them in 6 months compared to 2. But like Margot Gonzalez was, I think, top 20 innings pitched last year, and they had a 6-man for the entire time. So it kind of counteracts it a little bit, makes it not as bad, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, plus those typically don't last the whole season.
Yeah, that's true. But if they call up Gilbert, that's one more starter for them.
Oh yeah, they'll go.
You can get rid of Marjavicius pretty quickly, but you look at Flexen is interesting. Sheffield's interesting. Dunn's interesting. They have, they may not be perfect, but they all have like little things about them that I like.
Yeah, Dunn's really interesting because he's up 2 miles an hour on his fastball. Yeah. And he's been pitching really well. I don't think it's going to last, though, because every indicator on the planet shows regression for him. And I think the secondaries are still kind of lacking a little bit, but at least it looks like he's taking a little bit of a step forward right now, which is cool to see.
Right. And that's one of the things. Sometimes like the stats will be lagging behind the actual stuff. It takes a while for him to harness all that. You like, okay, you can see the potential. That's where you like having actual good scouting eye is so important. When you're watching all these pictures, you and Nick Pollock, Picture List, they can actually kind of keep an eye on that sort of stuff. And that's, and like I had Bernie Pleskoff on the show on Mondays on Sirius and XM, and, he'll look at it from a different point of view. It's like, well, I see this, and that trained eye is really important.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could do that.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to get better at, or I guess really learn, how to look for mechanics and stuff. I know some basic stuff, but sure. Yeah, it'd be nice to kind of be able to see those kinds of things too.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a couple other guys. You were big on Jacob Junis this week. He came through in a big way. The Pirates were awful, and he was great.
Yeah, he worked out really well. I more so like the matchup. I mean, websites show that he added a cutter. Some people say it's kind of just a reworked slider. Either way, it's clearly working for him. It has a ridiculous amount of horizontal movement to it, and it only has a 0.117 WOBA against it. So it's really working for him. But what worries me is the hard contact's kind of up, and he has a pretty high barrel rate against him. So I kind of feel like that very low home run per 9 that he has right now will eventually rise. And I think the ERA might fall a little bit. Plus the swing strike percentage doesn't really match his strikeout rate either. So I think in the end, he's going to regress. I don't think he's someone you really necessarily hold on to, but as a streamer, I think he get the job done against those weaker offenses.
Yeah. And there are plenty to be found in the AL Central. So there is that. And then of course, facing the Pirates doesn't hurt either. His opponents so far this year, 2 outings against the Rangers in relief, then a start against the Indians, Toronto, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh. Okay. None of those are murder. It's not murderer's row, especially because the Toronto start was, minus a couple of their big hitters too. And so that's one thing you have to take away from that. But yeah, so far so good. Only one bad outing, that one against the Rays. That was about it. Couple of problem children I want to ask about. Kenta Miata. What's wrong with Kenta Miata?
Yeah. So I actually wrote an article about him in the offseason on Fangraphs and about what worried me about him. And it's kind of still there. And I think that's the main issue. And it's his slider command. Yeah. In the past 2 years, so he's increased his slider usage. So it's basically become his main pitch. And last year, he left in the middle of the zone over 31% of the time. And that led to a 524 ISO and a high WOBA against it. This season now, he's leaving it in the heart of the zone 34% of the time. So even more so than last year. And we see what's happening to it. I mean, it's getting hit even harder. I don't know if you saw the Framil Reyes home run.
I did
pitch. And that's what happens when you hang it over the middle. And if there's something I've learned something from Eno Saris, and he always, I think he either did research or someone did, and he put it out there where sliders, it's more important to have command than movement. So if Maeda's throwing a slider more than any other pitch and he has no command over it, he's not going to have good results. So unless he fixes that, or like maybe throws the slider less and goes to his other pitches more, I don't know how much he could really improve. He's obviously not this bad, but I think people were taking him at a ceiling, and I don't think he's ever really going to get to that low 3 ERA area if he keeps this up.
No, I'm definitely concerned. And the thing is, I was really bummed out that I didn't have him last year more than I did, because, that was the last year he was at an affordable price. This year he's going to the 3rd, 4th round, and that's something, an area he's never gone. Now, some of that was the Dodgers kind of messing around with the number of starts he got, kind of throttling his innings because they had their depth, and because there's some contract clauses too. So this is one thing that's changed a little bit, but it's tough. I still root for him even though I don't have him anywhere. But yeah, it's not looking great. I don't even know if he's a buy low candidate at this point in time.
No, I feel like it's too early. And like the owner isn't going to give him up for nothing yet, and vice versa.
Right.
I don't think you could really, sell him for what his draft cost was. So you're kind of stuck with him for now. You just got to hope that he improves.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, unless he fixes that, I don't know. I don't see him becoming what we, hoped, basically.
I think you're right about that. Here's another guy I'm not too optimistic about, and that's Patrick Corbin on the Nats. He had one good start, maybe he's turning it around a little bit, and then he was pretty awful again in his most recent outing. What's your take on him?
Yeah, his profile is really odd to me. I can't really figure it out. What I think is happening, so a lot of people were worried about the fastball velocity because that was the issue last year. But it's currently sitting at 90.8 miles per hour, and that's what it was at the beginning of 2019. So I think the fastball is okay velocity-wise, and I think he'll eventually get up to that like 91.5 miles an hour that he typically throws mid-season. So I think that's good. What's really weird, though, is the velocity in his slider. Yeah. It typically averages around 82 miles an hour. Right now it's sitting at 78. Whoa. So I'm not sure what's going on there. And because of that, it actually has more movement, but he has no command over it. Right. I think he's leaving in the zone more than he often does because Corbin loves to throw that outside the zone, basically, or right at the corner, and he's leaving it kind of in the zone. So the command, again, with what we're talking about before with the sliders, is you need that command, and he's not getting chases because of it. And that could just, it's like a trickle down effect, essentially. Right. And then what was also weird was to start the season, which it could have just been game plan for all we know, but he wasn't really throwing the slider a lot. It was his second most thrown pitch, which is really weird. He was going on the fastball more. But then finally, that one good game that you were just talking about, he did switch and go to the slider a ton. So that's what made us all think, okay, maybe he's going to get going. But then he goes against the Mets, and the command isn't there still, and the Mets hit him pretty hard. So
yes, they did.
He's tough to figure out. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
I saw that Arizona start, which was really ugly, and it was aided by some horrific defense at second base, where they could have gotten. I think it was Harrison that butchered a double play ball, turned a 5-run outing into a 10-run outing, and that's the part that gets really tough. We've had some real bad pounding so far. We got Gombered, we got the Joe Ross outing. I avoided those, but I had the Daniel Ponce de Leon week where I had one good start, and then the second one was against the Brewers, and they torched him. Just wiped out all the good that he did in the first
picked him
start.
as a streamer. Yep.
Not good, not fun at all. Looking at this week's slate, anything that jumped out to you, like either tonight or later this weekend? Any pitchers that jumped out as guys you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned Cease tonight. I like Joe Ross against Miami. I think I put out the other day. It's weird. He's one of 8 pitchers, and the other 7 pitchers are all aces to have over a 35% chase rate and a 30% CSW. So he's doing something right. And Miami's offense they've been bottom of the barrel lately. They do get hot at times, though. So we'll see what happens there. But right now, they are not hitting. So I like Joe Ross. And then I also there's really not that many good streamers coming up for the weekend. But I also would say Griffin Canning, just because you have that strikeout potential. He's going to Seattle. They have a lot of bats that, swing and miss. So I feel like even if he doesn't give you the best ratios, at least he'll give you 6 to 7 strikeouts there.
Yeah, I like that. I like the anti-Miami talk. Not that I hate the Marlins, but they're decimated right now. Chisholm's out. Corey Dickerson got hurt the other day. I don't know if he'll come back. I think they're off today, so at least they get that. But Brian Anderson's on the IL. They're down, and of course Starling Marte's out too, and he's not coming back anytime soon. Losing Chisholm was a bad one there. I mean, he's so fun to watch. It's just
he's amazing to watch. Yeah.
And it's a leg injury too. That's
he stole 2 bases the other day. Was it against Burns? I think it was against Burns.
It was.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's fun.
He is. He's a lot of fun. So hopefully, is there a steer clear? This is a danger, warning the battle fleet sort of guy here that you're looking like people might be on. You might be, picked up a lot. People are targeting, and you're like, no, don't do this one? Do you have any of those, any avoids for us? I didn't really prep you on this one, so I'm
no. I saw someone tweeted it, and so I looked quick. It's hard to tell who people are kind of on. Sure. I think Junis might be a trap for his 2-start week. Cleveland, they struggle, but sometimes they can be a little pesky, and kind of like I said, like if Franmil gets hot, he hits all those home runs, and then they have the White Sox, which you just don't want any part of. And then I don't know if people are going to start to get all in on Herman now because of his last start. I've never been a fan. I feel like he's really just a 2-pitch pitcher, and if that curveball is not going, he's just not going to have a good night. He gets the White Sox and then the Nationals. So I don't know if people are just in on these two guys because they're pitching well as of late, but if they are, I would just kind of tell them to, temper your expectations a little bit.
So I'm the dunce that really bought in on Herman's spring training. And I was like, look at all those strikeouts. The command's great.
Yeah,
I'm in.
Do that.
How many times do I say, spring training stats don't matter that much? Don't get caught up. And then we do it anyhow.
I know. I always try and tell people that too. Yeah. In 2020, coming in 2020, that was Vince Velasquez. He looked amazing in spring training, and it looked like he had a reworked pitch, and he was terrible. Yeah. So I was trying to bring that example up to everyone for this season because a lot of people loved Logan Webb too. Who I don't think he's been terrible, but I think people thought that he was going to start being like a strikeout machine because of what he was doing in spring training, but that's just not been the case.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned Logan Webb. He had a good start on Sunday, and hit a triple too. But Johnny Cueto's coming back, and Phil DeSalt was asking this one here. He goes, Gabe Kapler says that Johnny Cueto could return May 9th, which lines up with an Aaron Sanchez start. Am I reading it too much into this, or do you think he's the one getting dropped from the rotation and not Webb? Or as a 6-man rotation, a possibility there too with the Giants, because they've had all these guys kind of step up.
Yeah, they might go that way just in case. They might go a 6-man. That's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if. I think they'd probably still want to give Aaron Sanchez a chance. Maybe they're just trying to give their guys a break a little bit.
Yeah,
and that's another thing too. That's another thing too. Quickly, I don't want people to fall into like the Giants are going to Colorado, and I've had people ask me, "Are you going to start them there?" And I definitely would not. I wouldn't. No, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people are asking me. They're just like, "Are you taking them in Colorado too?" Because they just destroyed Colorado at home. Like 2 completely different things. You can't do that.
Right, I agree. And it's funny. I think that ballpark is not as pitcher friendly as it's been in the past. I also think that their lineup is slightly better than it's been in the past. The Giants I'm talking about here. So we used to be able to stream against the Giants, which, if you try to do that this week, you got Gombered. And and I love all the play on words with that, using his name. But how do you avoid getting Gombered?
I'll be honest, it's impossible. Yeah. No matter what you look at and how good, they're streamers for a reason. It's because this happens to them. You can do your best to limit your exposure to them, just by trying to do it smart, like I said, going off of splits and, who's hot, who's not, and maybe, trying to catch pitchers as they're getting hot as well. But it's impossible. I've done this for 3 seasons now. No matter what I do, I run into several every season. It's going to happen. I think that's kind of what's turning people away from streaming pitchers as well. Sure. I've heard a lot of talk that people are more so leaning on streaming hitting, and it makes sense because they can't necessarily ruin your ratios for a week. They could kind of hurt your batting average, but you still have all those other hitting categories. Whereas if you get Gombered, your ERA and WHIP are done for the week, basically. Unless the rest of your staff, pitches like aces.
Yeah, which is the point that Ariel Cohen raised in his question, is like with all the recent streaming blowups, and you're mentioning how it's been tougher for you this month. Are we better off not streaming and going with safer relievers like Chad Green and Garrett not Garrett Whitlock, but or any of these top relievers?
I think he mentioned April, and I think that's smart. If in my opinion, I wouldn't stream in April at all. or or at least towards the end where we have some data to go off of, because it's just so unpredictable. It's so tough. And and that's another thing too. I feel like some people will take pitchers towards the end of their draft solely just based off their first matchup, but we don't know. I mean, Texas struggled all year last year, and then they came in and absolutely destroyed Keller, which hurt me in every league I'm in. But
me too. I have a lot of Brad Keller.
Yeah. You never know. You just don't know. You don't know what offense is going to be good, what pitchers are going to be good. We like to think we know, but it's just so hard to predict that kind of stuff. So.
Jonathan Bales tweeted out earlier today. He goes, not only we know less than we think we know, but what we think we know might also be incorrect. Also, and
yes.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and it's not just in fantasy baseball; it's life. That applies to almost every discipline in the world. I think that's true. A couple more questions, then we'll let you go here. Good one from Ariel. Ryan Roof says, "Who is the next two-stepper that people will likely pick up this weekend?" And you kind of mentioned this already. It might be Junis. It might be
Junis from
trap. Yep.
Yeah.
Rob DiPietro does the Dead Pull Hitter podcast. Great stuff. Rob does.
Yes.
He's obviously a great player. And he's wondering, have you noticed any difference in pitch movements in terms of the new ball?
Yeah. So when I saw that was interesting and something I haven't thought to look into. But then as I was kind of thinking of it on the drive home from work, I do feel like I've seen a lot of pitchers increase their movement this year, but I can't say for a fact if that's true or not, just going off of me looking at different people. So that's definitely something I'd have to look into, or anyone for that fact, if they want to do like a research piece. I think that's pretty smart and interesting to look at.
Sounds like some time on Savant and Brooks baseball is in order.
Yeah, definitely.
Good question, though. It's something to look at and figure out what that means. This too. It's not
exactly.
Stage one, is there something happening here? Let's investigate. Stage two, what can we do with this information? And those are two different things.
Is it actually helping pitchers?
Yes, exactly. Are you worried about Brandon Lyle? Last question. JLD asked this one here. I know I'm not. I mean, I am a little bit, just because of the strikeouts in the World Series last year in the playoffs and all that. Homer today, so it's interesting timing as far as that goes. Maybe I should be a little bit, though. He's hitting 160 coming into today. 27 strikeouts.
Here's my view on all this. Rob DiPietro actually works on the back end with me on my website. Really smart guy, and he told all of the people who belong to our membership, and it's true, and I firmly believe this as well. You're the players you're drafting, at least your starters, like you're drafting them based off your research throughout the entire, spring training or off season, and you're taking them for a reason. Don't let a small sample of 3 to 3.5 weeks ruin that, your research.
Right.
Like, just because someone's struggling, like, hitters go through, dips all the time. So do pitchers. And I think just because it's the beginning of the year, people amplify that and make it think, okay, maybe this guy actually isn't that good. And meanwhile, if this was happening in the middle of, July, you just think, okay, he's just slumping. He'll come out of it eventually. So I think this early on, it's really not, for me, it doesn't really make sense to worry about these guys that you've put your faith into. Let it ride out a little bit. If you're 2 months in, then yes, I get it. That makes sense. But you got to kind of let them, get their bearings, and, you never know. I mean, you could think Lau isn't good, and then watch next month he go off.
Right. And then you get whipsawed.
Right. And then you're thinking, oh, I was right about it.
Right.
So
I had someone ask us the other day, should I drop Kyle Tucker for, oh gosh, I forget who the pickup was, but it was someone not even in the same universe. First of all, no, don't drop Kyle Tucker, period. He was your 3rd round pick. Do not drop. Do not pass.
I've had a lot of people ask me they should drop Maeda, and I'm just like, do not drop Maeda. No. He's not this bad. He might not be as good as you thought, but he's definitely not a bad pitcher. He's a good pitcher.
Right. I think that's right. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for all the good questions, everybody. Thanks for listening and tuning in live. For those of you who did on StreamYard, we do appreciate it there. Once again, Michael, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at SPStreamer. Our website's spstreamer.com. and our podcast is SP Streamer Podcast, and I run that with my co-host Doug Ishikawa. You can follow him on Twitter at CoachingIsh, and that's pretty much everything.
Very good. Hey, well, it was a pleasure meeting you online, or we've been online, but actually video, face to face, and talking with you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Coming up tomorrow, Todd Zola Play Link are hosting the podcast. Make sure to tune in. As always, please subscribe, rate, and review. It means a lot. We say it every time. It does mean a lot to get your feedback. So please send that in. We do appreciate it. And we'll be back at you again soon. Take care.